10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time. Dire team pick. Ten seconds remaining.
Venomancer.
Dire team ban. Dire team ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time. Radiant team ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time. Radiant team pick.
Anti-mage.
Dire team pick.
Spirit Breaker.
Radiant team pick. Dire team pick. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time. Dire team ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team pick. Ten seconds remaining.
Silencer.
Dire team pick. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
Shadow Fiend.
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Prepare for battle.
Thank you very much. Yes, welcome to the TriCast. It is obviously the two wheels on the third one. It's our tricycle, really, of a commentary pair. But yes, it is Purge.
That's helpful because I can't ride a bike. That
I would like to be the back left wheel. I'm not sure which wheels you guys want to
I
be,
like the
but-
front one because it has the most stability.
All
I
right.
guess I'm the back and right one, while you two are just like left wheeling it and going two wheels the entire way. Yeah, we got ourselves a game. Game number one of our two game series. No Logic Gaming, who I know Syndrome was basically gunning for before we even started this entire qualifier. Is sitting out there going, you know what, these guys, like, look at them for the top two kind of style. Up against NiP, a team which who knows where they're going to place 1 to 5.
It would be fun to see another open qualifier team go do really well. It's CDEC story. It's alive, man.
Yeah, I think they can do it too. NiP, we've been following their team for a while since their win actually at MLG, but they tend to kind of have this tendency to play to their competition. Like when they have to play against top flight competition, you'll see them pull some upsets. But sometimes it feels like whenever they play against teams that they should beat, they kind of just struggle because it feels like they get inside their own heads.
It's kind of funny as we watch them go up against NLG right now. We've got some players from Power Rangers, formerly the team who were the ones who would beat the top teams out, but would struggle against even Steven teams or teams which are of a lower ranking to them. Anyway, we do have our game already underway. I know, Blitz, you actually want to pick apart a little bit of the draft here, especially the anti-mage pick.
Yeah, something I actually really agreed with Sunsfan here is that I think the Ember Spirit works so well against both the Anti-Mage and the Queen of Pain. Both of those heroes are ones that are incredibly reliant on the blink early, so if you can do the long-range disable using the Ember Spirit, it's just a direct counter, and it just feels really good to me. That's what the Chinese teams were running really heavily at TI5. It kind of feels a little bit against logic when you're like, okay, Anti-Mage and Queen of Pain do really well late game, but in the mid game when you just need to lock those heroes down, Ember's one of the best at it.
What do you think about this offlane? The analysts were also a little bit iffy about the laning phase really working, as we're seeing the Spirit Breaker is getting completely forced out of that bottom lane by this Silencer Witch Doctor combo. How is this meant to work? Because it looks like Hans just has no pressure down here.
We actually saw this lane at ESL New York. It was ran by Fnatic, and they ran the Darkseer with a Spirit Breaker, but what they did is they just dodged the lane. This is a different way to deal with it. It's two ranged heroes. They've got glaives. They've got stun potential if things get dangerous, and I agree, it's working really well right now.
Yeah. And I'm wondering too, like, how Sans can get himself in and out of this lane. Like, you go for Bash level 1, no charge. Now he actually gets it off cooldown, so he can charge himself into Diddy Ra, and now they're really close on Unison Farm. Where's that one hit? He can't get the bonus 17. So Bash,
he gets it!
Now he'll finally be able to hit into him, and that means it will be a revenge kill on the Anti-Mage. But first blood still goes the way here of NLG.
That didn't have to happen. He just had to walk away. He kept hitting the Darkseer to stay committed to it, but he could have walked away, and then to make things even worse, he got blocked by Silencer.
Yeah, that was a little bit of sloppiness by NLG. I think they got really excited because they thought, like, oh, this is a really great opportunity. We're going to get first blood. Yeah. And I think Diddy Ra, I kind of agree with you, but they really shouldn't have blocked him. That's kind of just a communication thing more than on him.
It's a bit of a sad thing too, he doesn't get the first blood, so not extra gold for him, but still that's a Silencer being involved in early kills. We're going to see that intelligence being removed from Darkseer and Spirit Breaker, not the two smartest heroes on the NiP lineup.
It's good for, well, Darkseer is quite smart actually, but Spirit Breaker is going to have some issues mid-game definitely. That could, if he dies a lot, it could be a serious hampering on his mana pool.
I honestly like the fact that they're dual laning though this game. I think that if you just look at the CS already, starting the game, the Ember Spirit already has 15 CS uncontested, and I feel like this is super important just because the Ember has to snowball a little bit sooner than the Anti-Mage, because the Anti-Mage, once he gets his Battle Fury, is going to be pretty uncontested. Like, even if you have a Spirit Breaker, if you look at NiP's lineup, they'll build up for it is actually quite slow, because there's no hero that can really keep up with the Spirit Breaker. Like, you don't have anything that can kind of instant initiate in with him. And so I think it's pretty big that the Ember Spirit has to get a bit of a lead so he can get to these earlier engagements.
Well, it makes sense as well, like when you put the Venomancer there, like that was the role, that's what Puppy did so well with him at ESL, is just by making sure that offlaner can't get in close. You use that very slightly upgraded Sting, and of course Venomous Gale got buffed a couple of patches ago, so now it actually does tick on level 1. It doesn't help when you miss it like that, however, and now Steel Kid's in a lot of trouble. In fact, he'll be dead right now, unless he can deny himself over to the side, but with the Snowball to commit, Saskar will ensure the kill, and that's going to give him good progression.
That hurts so much for Venomancer here. He doesn't have boots yet, right?
No.
Yeah, he doesn't. So that just puts him so far behind as a hard support, because now Tusk has gold advantage. He's already got boots himself, and he's constantly giving me a threat of somebody that could die. Tusk could even just pick up an Orb of Venom, find the Venomancer, and just chase him till he dies.
Yeah, some fun. Well, there goes your charge shrine by a little bit of space, but they got no more stuns after throwing out that paralyzing cask. But NiP are completely forced off this off lane now. There's no more regen left on the Spirit Breaker. He has to go home.
And one of the good things about doing an aggressive dual lane is it forces the supports to stay there, and hopefully then your mid gets a straight 1v1. But Limp's actually having a lot of trouble here versus Excalibur on the Queen of Pain, and there's not that many stacks for him to catch up with. So it's not looking that great for NiP at the moment.
I think it's okay. The laning phase, if you just kind of look at it, was always going to be a little bit difficult for NiP. Like, a Veno can't really straight 1v1 zone out a Tusk very easily, but when it comes to the mid game, you're going to see NiP play this IG style where we saw it a lot at ESL New York. You get the mech on one of the heroes, and then you kind of just barrel through the lanes. Like, you can get the mech on the Darkseer or the Shadow Fiend. If the Shadow Fiend feels like the Darkseer is going to get it way too late, then you can kind of just go for something a little bit different.
Is this one of the reasons too why you're saying like the Ember Spirit's got to come online a little bit sooner? Unison Farm, he's got no surge available. He's going to actually stand and fight. As that silencer dropping down very, very low, but they've already got the kill over on Unison Farm, and Hanskin caught in the tree line. Have they got a stun or anything? No, they don't. He'll TP himself out to safety. But yeah, I want to go back to it. So you're basically saying look for the Meko from the SF. Is the Ember meant to be part of this kind of like, is it meant to be a 4-man or a 5-man move here from NiP?
I think once you get your mech on either of the heroes, you just start going for the 5-man pushes. This lineup, I don't know if you can really commit to going for the ultra late game, because I think the mobility of NLG's cores are just a little bit better. Like, I feel like that's what really determines late game supremacy, is whoever has the more mobile cores that can farm a little bit faster, and I think a 6-slotted Anti-Mage and a 6-slotted Queen of Pain are a little bit scarier for me, just because the Ember is going to struggle to keep up with that type of aggression, especially when you've got a Tusk that's doing so well.
I feel like that 5-man strat is a little dangerous against NLG though, because they can split or counter push the lanes with Tusk, Queen of Pain, and Anti-Mage isn't going to be in fights either.
That should be pretty much a guaranteed kill right now. Even with the snowball, that's going to move themselves back a very long way, and this actually puts Tusker in a worse position. Nikwa, he's just got no choice here except death. The Plague Wall even blocking his path. And the Ember Spirit will find himself that pick off. So good rotations from the SB coming out. Nice and early too, 6 minutes in.
Yeah, I'm glad they finally decided to put some pressure on that Tusk, because you can't just leave this hero unchecked, especially when you've got a hero like Ember. You can just rotate like 1 or 2 heroes. If the Silencer is getting some levels too, he just hits level 6 and they can pretty much gank him really easily.
It didn't really seem like the Tusk was achieving much by being on that off lane as well. Like, he just sits there with the Darkseer, but Darkseer can do the same kind of thing with Iron Shells.
I think what was meant to happen is, because Witch Doctor and Silencer are actually pretty squishy, they were hoping that the Ion Shell plus the Spirit Breaker would be enough.
So
but
you can run like a double Ion Shell charge in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think NiP also thought that NLG would eventually kind of play a little bit more passively, but because they didn't...
Ooh, Bash.
Bash actually works against him because the Gale can't get in range, and there's a lot of support coming in right now for NLG, but Excalibur way too deep there, ends up getting picked off by Era. The Shards can't look in Hanskin either, and it's just a simple runaway here for NiP. Even scouting out that Observe Ward that's down, they just TP themselves out to safety. But Excalibur really going a bit gung-ho.
It's a pretty big mistake because the burst damage on NiP is really not very high, but all it took was that one chains and he was committed and dead.
It honestly just felt like they thought for sure they were going to get one out of there, but the Queen of Pain, and this is why the Ember's so strong, she commits only 1 level of Blink. Once she commits that hard after the TP, there's no way that she's going to get in, and that's, in my opinion, Kevin, I think that's what Queen of Pain does best, those counter initiations, because that level 1 Blink, the distance doesn't change at all, but if you hard commit, you're in for it.
And he was doing pretty well in this lane, but he's now finally behind Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend clearing up jungle stacks at the moment. Getting a lot of farm there, and we'll see if that mech timing comes up soon.
I think you can still commit it on the Darkseer. Honestly, Jonas isn't doing terribly. I think like 30 CS at this point isn't awful, but they're going to have to decide really quickly. Like, the SF can still just go for, I feel, just a straight DPS. Like, he can go for Yules to one-shot the Queen of Pain or the Anti-Mage, or he can just opt to go for something like the S and Y early.
Is it worth going Yules this game? I mean, you said you can use it to one-shot, you can also use it to remove Global Silence, but isn't it just easier just to get a BKB?
Yeah, I just
Especially
don't...
against Tusk.
I just never liked the straight-away BKBs. Like, I think going for some sort of lead-up item, most of the time it's the mech, but because you have a Darkseer, even S and Y is okay. And he's going to go for the Ogre Club, so it's either the BKB or that.
I think S and Y would be alright. I do kind of like the Yules idea, but it still keeps his HP quite low.
Yeah, I just... honestly, I just never liked the straight BKB because I feel like it almost just commits you to the mid game. But that's what I was talking about anyways. I feel NiP has to get aggressive in the mid game to be able to win this, because heroes like Veno and Spirit Breaker were never meant to win the laning phase. Like, these are heroes in team fights though are excellent to have.
Their late game's not awful though. I mean, Ember's Spirit has been doing really well today. All he has to do is not die and keep getting kills, that kind of a thing. And Era just seems consistently AFK. That's the second time this game where he's definitely not at his keyboard right now.
How about we actually look about the NLG minute? So let's talk about Excalibur for a bit. The Queen of Pain, not the greatest timing for the death. What's your item progression for her to be ready when NiP are coming to attack?
It's not really an Orchid game, right? I mean, it's very good against Ember Spirit, but the rest of the heroes are pretty survivable.
I think Orchid's okay, but if you anticipate the SF just doing this well, which he is, and he is going to go for the SNY, which I agree with, because, again, I just think that going for this first item BKB is kind of the wrong idea.
Yeah.
It almost just, it's like, if it doesn't pay off, you don't win the next 3 fights, then the game pretty much just ends.
Especially against Quap Witch Doctor, both of those heroes will do damage through his BKB, so it just wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, exactly. But at top...
Not going to bounce right now. Limp just being set up with a Walrus Punch, and there's just Sonic Wave from Excalibur, hitting perfectly. Hunskin wants to try and find something, but they can just start cutting it out. But Era now also going to arrive, gets the Searing Chains over. The Witch Doctor, incapable of running himself away from this one. It's already a 3-for-0 trade-off, and Ember Spirit forced to retreat back out to that defensive spirit.
That was a good fight. That cast just wrecked them, basically. Like, Arrow was like, oh, I'm just going to channel my ultimate, but everybody was there in NLG. And he didn't even get a chance to cast anything, so rough for him.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think the Shadow Fiend, they decided to go for the rune, but when you clump up with a support like that, like Kevin said, the Witch Doctor cast just kind of destroys you. But most of this game doesn't really depend on the first 10 minutes. It's actually a lot bigger for NLG to get this good start, because NiP is just going to be committed to those mid-game fights.
Snowball gonna chase up. Just trying to buy himself a little bit of space. The paralyzing cask again gonna cause zero issues here with NiP.
Arrow's committed.
For the tower. He's in pretty damn deep for this one, but he's got support. It's the SB right behind him looking for the bash. Doesn't even require it. It's a double kill arriving in for this Ember Spirit, able to fight so early on.
Wow.
Already the TP out. Spirit Breaker's out to safety.
It's an anti-major rotation. By the way, there's the second stream is live now. It's going to be Navi versus CIS Rejects. It's on twitch.tv/moonducktv. So if you guys want to tune into that, you can. The rotation on anti-mage, though, he got like 2 waves out of that, and now he has to run across the map again. So that costs him a lot.
Yeah, he's done the anti-Darkseer build too. This is really common. I think I saw Black started doing this, but I don't really know where it originated from.
I heard it was Ritsu first, but
okay. Yeah, you just get a ton of regen to be able to deal, and since you're gonna get the Vlads anyways, it's not too hard of a commitment, and it allows you to just trade hits with the Darkseer. But it is going to delay the Battle Fury timing, and that's so key for NLG, because the main way they're going to pressure the lanes and split NiP up and pretty much make this do or die is if he gets a sub 15-minute Battle Fury. But if he doesn't, then I feel like NiP just gather up and do what they're doing right now, like use the strength of their 4 or 5 men, because nobody wants to fight into a Venom at this phase of the game, and it's really chancy to kind of all-in commit when you have an Anti-Mage and a Queen of Pain on your lineup.
So at that point, then NLG just have to try and dodge. Like, you just look for favorable trade-offs.
Yeah, you completely just kind of give up that tier 1 at top. There's no real reason to risk the game for it. It's kind of, you should always kind of think as a team, what am I giving up / taking away? If I decide to go for this tier 1 defense at top and we lose it, then our anti-mage is never going to get farmed because they're going to all-out pressure our jungle at that point. So you give it up. You try to get farm wherever you can. I actually don't even think NLG send anybody else up there besides the Tusk. Like, just spend the rest of the time farming on the other part of the map.
Except for maybe the occasional gank or something like that. Looks like they're looking for kills in the Radiant jungle at the moment. Pretty easy double combo. Surprised it's Era actually doing the ganking here, but his damage potential is really high.
They're looking for the anti-mage, that's why.
Yeah.
What a time to smoke. That Observer Ward, they're not actually going to run down into their own jungle. They want to move over the river, and they're coming after Limp. They really want to get this SF. He's got 15 one-shots. Will get them off, but will not be able to survive long enough. Only the Death Ulti, and that Death Ward is doing its work until now the Global
Arrow's from behind.
Kick in, but Arrow hitting through Excalibur. He'll bring him down. You've got the extra support being the Venomous to keep the Tuskar under control, but it's Arrow looking for kill after kill. He's got no Spider Fist available, but the burn is still going to be enough to reach the Witch Doctor. And looks like the Tuskar was able to get himself out to safety, but still another 2 kills coming the way of Era. He's 6 for 0 on this Ember Spirit and very close to Battle Fury.
Normally I'd say that wasn't maybe the best thing for NLG because Anti-Mage is free farming this whole time, but because Ember has so many kills, he's going to so rapidly get to a point where he has Battle Furies and Daedalus. And then the NLG squad is just going to get ripped through every single time that he uses Sleight of Fist. Witch Doctor and Silencer, they're going to be so threatened. Even Queen of Pain. Like, she's going to go for Orchid first. She's not going to have a lot of survivability until later.
Oh, there's your Searing Chains again. Did you rise in a lot of trouble, SF? Ray's not going to help him. There's no more stuns available. The SB was charging down. And that's that play with the SB where you can keep the vision on him even if he does blink inside the tree line. The downside, the SB couldn't get there in time.
Yep. Searing Chain's cooldown is like 8 seconds or something like that, so as soon as that ran out, he knew that all he had to do was blink TP. So good escape from him.
Right now,
Kind of surprised Ember Spirit actually used it that early too.
he had to set up for it to slow him down, but I kind of agree.
Maybe he should have waited a moment to initiate or something like that, if he would have waited like a second before he went in.
Yeah.
But the same vein, he still forced Anti-Mage to TP away. Like, Anti-Mage wastes 75 gold, he has to go farm somewhere that's less efficient. He does still accomplish something despite the kill not happening.
Is under attack.
You notice at the same time too that NLG, they're just willing to give up even their safe lane tower, Toby, just because they realize there's no way that we're really going to contest right now.
Yeah.
We've got really greedy cores. Why not just split up the map, waste NIP's time as much as possible?
Problem is that when IP is just going to force the issue, you see 4 of them grouping up around this tier 1 tower. So you go for another trade-off, like the top tier 1. Like the trades just don't seem to be paying off here for NLG.
Well, it looks like they can get the tier 1 top this time. They're going to trade mid for it, though.
No, I think everybody defends.
Yeah, they've only gotten through 50% of that tower's life. They need to do a lot more work than that.
Yeah.
They don't really have tower pushers is the problem, and at the same time, even if NIP lose that tower, I feel like that's a really favorable trade for them because you're taking away the mid tower, and that essentially is going to limit the amount of farm that the anti-mage has because you can just make excursions into the jungle at that point.
Yeah, and it's hard to punish it basically. Like, there's only like one camp in his jungle that he can safely farm and get TP support from.
Yeah, which is why you're seeing him just kind of farm really slowly and inefficiently over here, but
The charge is coming in. No paralyzing cask, and for now, actually still on cooldown. That's the reason why Global Stars will try and allow NLG to turn this one around with the Death Wall going down. Limp just tanks it up, triggers the BKB into the Requiem of Souls. The Witch Doctor's already down, and Era catching out the rest of NLG, sitting in that tree line near the Secret Shop. They go down deeper. Excalibur is so low, but Era is too far away. Now when they get the Gale over on the Tusker, all he can do is just Protection Snowball, runs into Hunskin, but gets Syrian chained up quickly. This time it's Limp who's fighting kill after kill. 3 of them, in fact, on this top lane, and they'll push just straight into the tier 2 tower. It looks like this NiP train just cannot be stopped.
Radiant structures are fortified.
What's the better way to deal with that team fight? I feel like NLG... I guess the initiation was they didn't want to fight, but NIP just forced them to fight, is kind of what it seemed like. Like, Witch Doctor was trying to retreat. They should have just left him, maybe. That could have just been one hero. Anti-Mage could have been farming.
yeah, I agree. I think for some reason they thought their anti-mage was in danger, so they're like, oh, our anti-mage is kind of here, we have to commit more heroes. But I really like the fact that Limp, he would have gone for the SNY if not for the fact that those 2 fights that happened in mid and at that top rune were just like, I don't want to get cast anymore. This is super obnoxious to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'll just go for the BKB first, and then we'll snowball off of that. And because they were taking so many tier 1 towers, he's able to go for this BKB and then revert to the SNY, and it leads to a 1 team fight. And this feels like a better commitment overall by him. I like the fact that he was able to kind of judge the game.
He just seems so tanky as well. Like, you get the BKB to break out of silence, but like, where is the damage meant to come from NLG that really brings down that SF? Like, your Sonic Wave and the mech is going to break you free of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's at least not until they get something like a Manta on Anti-Mage. They definitely are lacking on damage. It's basically a little bit of burst, but if SF just keeps getting more and more HP, the fights get so difficult. Even if they global silence, he just BKB ults, and then all of a sudden NLG says, maybe I shouldn't run into melee range against the enemy team right now. That advantage that they had is kind of gone now because of that BKB.
I'm wondering if the mantra is even going to be enough, because once you trigger the BKB, you got no mana burn, you got nowhere to really enforce extra
All
damage.
he's got to do is blink Manta Darkseer and one-shot the whole enemy team with his ult.
Okay.
So that's it. That's it.
That's the dream.
That's all he's got to do, man. Easy.
This Queen of Pain Orchid, though, kind of feels a little bit redundant to me because they already have the global, and NIP
Yeah.
are pretty much going to be 5-manning anyways. So what is the target there? And at the same time, it's coming so late that I don't know if it's going to have the desired impact. Because Eric can just see that and say to himself, okay, I'll just go for the Manta and hard
Yeah.
counter before he even gets it.
Maybe Excalibur thinks he can get solo pickoffs, but most of NIP seem a little bit too tanky for solo pickoffs for a quad.
Yeah.
That was probably his idea, but remember, he started building that like 5, 6, 7 minutes ago, and yeah, Arrow was already ahead at that point, but they didn't really know how the next couple team fights were going to go, for example. So I think if he was ahead and he had an Orchid, it'd be a great option, because him plus any other hero could kill Era. But now that he's behind, it just looks awful.
And this is kind of what I was just talking about. They have the mech, they've got the 5-man lineup, and their 5-man is incredibly strong. Like you can't get away from the Spirit Breaker with the type of lineup that NLG have, especially when one of your supports gets gone on, and you don't have the best wave clear either on their team. So I almost just feel like NiP, you kind of knew this was going to happen, and NLG had a good start, and I just felt like their strategy should have been avoid, create space where we can, look for solo smoke pickoffs, like hit and runs to keep NiP honest. But aside from that, like you've got two pretty, I don't want to say Queen of Pain's passive, but you do want to have the ability to 5-man. But against NiP's lineup, I don't think you really have that option.
I really like the item coming out of the Venomancer this game. He's buying a Veil. A Veil's extremely inexpensive right now. It's been reduced a bit more. It only costs about 2,500 or something like that. It's pretty cheap. And it really synergizes with their entire team. They're all, 2,300, just under that. They're all magic damage, basically. So just buying the super fast Veil, long before many of NLG's heroes are even close to BKB, it just gives you, like, this 15-minute period where they really can't take team fights if the Veil comes out accurately.
How does anybody survive against Flame Guard plus Ion Shell
with a Veil?
I don't actually...
You could say you could kill off Hera, but he'll come back to life again because they've got the Aegis Immortal already. It seems like almost an impossible task here for NLG, but they're going to be asked to do it anyway. NiP come in, they already get their steering chains off on the silencer. They do have global silence and every other ulti available at the moment, so that's the upside for them. It looks like, Diddy Ra is just going to play around on the side lane. He needs TP now. He's waited too long.
I mean, he's not going to die to the Spirit Breaker Soul, especially if that happens.
No way out. He can't see Sundra. He'll just have to charge himself back down again towards the rest of his teammates.
How is that? That doesn't happen very often, does it? Where he just like catches the corner?
It can happen, yeah.
Oh, they're really close. That invis room from the Tusker, catching at the Venomancer on the back lines. I don't think the call's really come. He's committed himself to killing off the Witch Doctor, and for all of his work, the Venomancer still is able to survive. In fact, not only do they survive, they kill off the Tusker. So you get the SB out of position, you pull the Anti-Mage back out again, and you still lose 3 heroes.
They just seem so lost right now. Like, they tried to take a couple fights, they got completely one-sided. They're probably checking all of NiP's heroes and being like, these guys all have a lot of farm right now. And the high ground has been broken.
For me personally, it just felt kind of just like NLG decided, like Kevin said, they committed 1 or 2 heroes too much, and when the Queen of Pain was top for that tier 1 push, I felt like she should have just been applying pressure into that mid lane, and then that TP at top where she died for pretty much nothing, I felt like that completely changed the course of the game, because then the SF got a lot of farm, her Orchid was super delayed as a result, and now that NiP is so comfortable going for 5-man after 5-man, it kind of just feels like this hero doesn't do anything anymore.
Like, she has 900 HP when she's on Intreads.
Yeah.
Like, she could get, like, Veno ulted with Veil and take, like, 1 charge and she would die, kind of a thing. Just her survivability is not nearly what it needs to be right now.
That's a very depressing situation when you're meant to be the one that just jumps in and inflicts huge amounts of damage to force NiP back.
Well, Arrow wants to win this game right now. He's like, I don't care about my next items, I just want to make sure that I don't get ultied by Anti-Mage.
It makes sense. Like, nothing can really stop them. Like, they've still got this Aegis Immortal. I'm not quite sure for how much longer they've still got the Aegis, but it's... Okay, well, not much longer at all. So, you've got a little bit of time to play around with, like 60 seconds to work with. That's enough to get the tier 2 tower, at least.
I think that NLG can still come back into this game with just 1 team fight, essentially. If Ditya Ra is successful in, like, 1 fight, Anti-Mage is still the same hero, right? Like, it hasn't changed since, like, 2011. Yeah. You lose 1 fight, he snowballs like crazy.
He can still get ganked a lot, though. Ember Spirit, or with Spirit Breaker, plus, like, a 3rd. He definitely can get ganked, and they do have the chase.
He still needs to find the space to farm up too. NiP have been doing a pretty damn good job of just splitting themselves around the map, looking for these openings and keeping tabs on Diddy Ra. And they're up on top lane, so they've got the Queen of Pain as well as the Anti-Mage not at home, while NiP have just gone through the back door, looking for those tier 3 towers. And they're actually charging up north.
They're trying to TP cancel right now, or waste time.
If possible. Looks like the SB though pulled out. He never finished the charge onto Anti-Mage. And yeah, NiP just leave the bottom lane as well. They realize they're coming back.
So just wait around for Roche, I guess. Get Aegis again and then force the high ground. I mean, I doubt they'll get as lucky as they did in the last fight where they grabbed an Invis rune and they were able to do an easy kill on Quap, but Spirit Breaker's even really farmed. Assange at this point is really good.
If they went any longer, this SF's going to have Butterfly up too.
Jeez.
And then there's no physical damage that's really going to get through to him apart from what? A Witch Doctor ulti?
Yeah, his HP's a little low, but the main damage source is really like some Quap burst and like a Witch Doctor ult, so...
But it's a level 1 Witch Doctor ult. There's a level 8 Witch Doctor 25 minutes into the game.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them. I feel like NLG should just wait until NiP is spread and then just do like a 3-man smoke and commit everything to killing that one hero. Because right now they're just sitting in their base and nothing's getting done.
Well, here comes the charge. It's just keeping Animage on his toes while the rest of NiP are coming in through the bottom lane. They need to keep their creep wave up, however, which seems to be a little bit of a problem for them with the shards flying through. There's nothing else to get rid of this creep wave just yet. Excalibur getting caught out by the searing chain. They have a full up to this one. It's the back into the charge. And Hanska decides not to dive underneath the tier 4 towers. They still brought that tier 3 tower down very, very low. As you can punch up Era all you really want to, but he just stands there. Now they'll surge him out, taking too much damage from that tower. And no immortality for him, so he's being a little bit more cautious, but he's Ember Spirit.
Let's instantly teleport back to base, heal, and return to battle.
I think NiP have the right idea here. With that BKB, the fresh BKB, and Limp still has a 9-second BKB. He's only used it once, and this is why they don't necessarily have to wait for the Aegis, because I feel like all that does is give NLG a little bit of space.
Glimmercape hiding the silence.
Oh, good cast.
You with the paralyzing cast causing problems for Hanska as well as Lim. Now they'll go for the BKB. The Sonic
Era's dead.
Era will actually go down. He did a considerable amount of damage to NLG, but now Lim winding up the Requiem just forces NLG back inside their base more than anything else. And it was to keep them away because they're locked on the ramp with the shards. So NiP find themselves caught out just a little bit.
That was that Witch Doctor cast that completely changed the fight. Basically permastun on 2 heroes that were really important, Spirit Breaker as well as the Shadow Fiend, and that just gave them the chance to kill. I don't know how Ember died, but...
It seemed to take a long time for that BKB to also come up from the SF. He got hit 3 times by that cast before triggering BKB.
They must have been close enough, otherwise I'm sure he would pop the BKB, because then SB would have been fine, so... It almost would look so good for them too, but man, that cast just completely won that fight.
I think the NLG had the right idea though. They were saying to themselves, if we just wait for the tower to go down, then NiP are pretty much just going to high ground this, reset the fight over and over again, wait for Roshan, and then we lose the game. Taking the fight outside the base there was definitely the right idea. At the same time, NiP, you can poke and prod, but I almost felt like that was a little bit too hard of a commitment, and they got a little bit too cocky. Like, they probably thought to themselves, NLG isn't contesting at all. They want to try to just force inside our base. But that tower is a lot more important to that high ground defense than anything, because it allows NiP to kind of fan out if they take that tower, and then the Witch Doctor cask isn't nearly as effective.
Yeah, I feel like if they just put SF in the front, let him take like the initial nukes, and then you can back him up, then they would have been absolutely fine. But because the Spirit Breaker was up there with him, then things got really messy.
Yeah, that was just like a perfect storm of events, because the Darkseer didn't have Guardian Greaves up, the Ember was a little bit too far forward for the rest of the team to help out, and then that cask, like you said, just kind of destroyed them. So this pretty much hard commits NiP to waiting for the Roshan, and then you go for that same push. But again, NLG, they can still come back into this game. Like they have the anti-mages really farmed, and this is still one of the best late game heroes. And this is a hero that Ember can't really keep up with. Like, you're already seeing it. The anti-mage is just behind the Ember right now when it comes to GPM.
Kills. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He'll have Vlad's up next, so his team's going to take a lot less damage from the Ember Spirit. That's one thing that's really nice. That bonus armor helps.
NiP actually getting into a position now where they should be fearful about the result of this game, because it seems like they've been in such a huge position of power.
I think so, honestly, because if you go for that Roshan and then you fail the fight after that, I almost just feel like NLG has reset the game.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Well, this might help him, but then again, Mana start to break free, the SB charge in. Just work out which one is the real Animage, but the Global Silence will buy space for Animage to blink himself out. But then they're back into a 3-man wall, and they actually get the Slider Fist. Ember Spirit will get the kill on the Animage. There's no buyback for over a minute for the Anti-Mage, and that's a free ticket, even without having the Aegis the Immortal. They just go in for that tier 3 tower and bottom racks.
I'm really surprised he went back in there. Like, he saw the enemies, he retreated out Maybe he just didn't expect them all to be there, but they even have a ward. I'm not sure what happened. Excalibur in trouble.
Oh wow, that's almost too easy. A simple slide to fist, and it's just like once you get chained up like that, there's just no way to get out, and you're so close to NiP. They got so much damage right behind him. There goes your melee rags and your range rags. Your buyback comes out from the Queen of Pain, but most of what you got's already been lost. You orc it over on Era. You're dropping him down low, but it's still not low enough to find yourself a kill, especially when you get another back wall like that. I say just another vac. Tuskar chasing out Era, but he is not strong enough to take this fight. The Searing Chain alone is enough to burn him out. So the Queen of Pain, the bought back hero, is the only one alive for NLG, and he can do nothing to stop this Roshan now for NiP.
Man, what a rough little turn. It looked like they were going to win, but...
they had a moment. They actually had themselves a glimmer.
I mean, they can still win, but at this point it becomes pretty easy for NiP. Like, even they get Roshir. I mean, the linchpin we're talking about is they get Aegis, and then they lose the next fight. That's when NLG comes back. But now NiP can play it so safe. They can just grab the Aegis, go to the top lane, do the slowest push ever, played very safe, and then once in a while NLG has to go back to defend their other two lanes that are pushing in, and that's when they engage. So NiP just has to do the straightforward at this point. And there's not a whole lot NLG can do.
This is like the roughest way to lose a game too, just because we were talking about that glimmer of hope, and then they executed it. They won the fight at bottom.
That was crazy.
And NiP weren't patient. They didn't go for the Roshan, and then NLG, they're sitting pretty. Their anti-mage just caught up to the Ember Spirit, like despite that 15k advantage that NiP had. And then he gets caught out that one time, a little bit of an overcommitment. They use the global silence to save him, and then at that point he should have said, okay, let's just completely reset the fight. This global's about to end. There's no way we're going to take this. But I think because the Ember Spirit had committed the BKB, he thought to himself, I can wait around a little bit, see if my team can catch up, and then we'll get into that fight. But the global silence ended a little bit sooner than he expected, because that's only a level 1 silencer 30 minutes into the game. You don't expect that.
Sunray able to dodge the Spirit Breaker, who was charging after him after some farm, caught him out. This looks like the easy push down the top lane.
Yeah, especially with the Helm of the Dominator, a little bit more armor covering him against the typical damage sources of NLG. And afterwards he's going to have Satanic, and then good luck.
It's also easy when Limp does this. Like, he sends his illusions in so deep. He sees everything of NLG. If they want to try and come and fight him, then he has to get past the illusions. You can't clean up the creep wave this way. And the Plague Wall, as you can start to be set up here by Seal Kid. So NiP will have to be jumping into poison attacks, and Sunrod does exactly that. He jumps in. He will bait out the Gale even though he doesn't get hit by it. And Era silenced up again. This Orchid is just instantly set over on him, but where's your extra control? It's not going to be anywhere. They are just getting absolutely carved apart by NiP, and rightly so. The GG call will come out in just over 32 minutes. NiP, a very solid performance from them, really. Even if their dual offlane didn't seem to work.
Yeah, they did really play well, honestly. The comeback was great, but NiP was just way too far ahead. They got so many kills on Era in their early game as well. Like, that, he had so many good items, and it just created... I felt like this is the first game that Sansa just looked really weak, and it was because they were pretty behind, and they maybe weren't the aggressors when they needed to be.
I think the biggest thing for me is just like you talked about, the Ember. He had so many just like free kills pop up. It's like a Queen of Pain TV stop. It's like a level 7 Queen of Pain. He's like, okay, that's a pretty significant kill. And then on top of that, yeah, the Tusk got a solo kill on onto Seal Kid, but at the same time, there was like a level 5 Tusk. So when they did gank him, it didn't just feel like they were ganking a regular level 2, level 3 offlaner. It felt like they were actually getting something significant out of it.